3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie, 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. So Ravensburger's game is designed for ages 10 plus, 1 to 4 players. It's the adventure book game series. Now this is the 3rd in the series. The first featured The Princess Bride, which I might go back and have a look at. I wasn't aware of it till I picked this one up. The second is The Wizard of Oz. I'm probably less interested there. But Lord of the Rings, straight away it's a winner, isn't it? Let's be honest. The fact it's solo play as well. Now, I like the box cover. It's very evocative. We've got the usual description on the back as to what you actually get in it, but I think it's going to be much more interesting to have a look what we've got. So, we've got the rules booklet, and we'll come back and look at the rules booklet in a minute. Now, it says it's an adventure book game, and the reason it says that is your boards are actually, oops, a counter in there, are actually the different adventures, and again we'll come back and look at that in a minute. We've got a number of figures. Now the figures are quite nice. I do think Ravensburger put a lot of effort into their figures. So we've got quite a nice Aragorn. And out of curiosity, I'm just going to match that up with a 28mm figure I've just got handy off camera, which I'm working on. Okay, that actually looks then as if they will work nicely with gaming, so that, you know, figure gaming, so that's quite useful. So we've got Legolas, slightly odd pose, but yeah, nothing really wrong with that. I think this is the best one, Gimli. I mean, I am going to paint these up, but every little detail looks right on that. And then you've got the hobbits. You've got Frodo and Sam, and you've got Merry and Pippin. Not quite convinced on the primary colour effect with them, but that's easy enough to sort with a little paint job. So what do we have within the component-wise in the game? We've got the corruption track, where basically the ring corrupts until you actually lose at the end of the track. You've got a lot of counters. Now, some of the counters, in fact a lot of the counters are actually double-sided. They all take specific parts in the scenario. So we've got footprints on one, and we turn it over to find Frodo. Similarly, we've got a goblin counter, and we turn it over to find out what symbol you need on a card to defeat it. So there's quite a few there. My downside of it was the fact that Boromir and Gandalf are tokens, not figures, which is a little bit of a disappointment. Now we've got the various decks of cards, and we'll have a look at each of those. But before we do, we've also got some quick reference cards. Now it is up to 4 players, but the 4 players are playing cooperatively in this, which is something I like. And struck me as very reminiscent of Alien Fate of the Nostromo, also by Ravensburger. So you've got this 6 types of cards. You've got the Palantir, you've got the Hobbit's front door, you've got Boromir's horn, you've got the light that's given to Frodo by Galadriel. You've got a sword, which is quite a nice little reproduction of Sting, and you've got the One Ring cards. Now the One Ring card can be played as a wild card, as of any type, but it adds to the corruption deck as you play it. You also have, for each of the 8 scenarios, a plot chart, and when you look at it, they all score up to 15. So in chapter 1 it tells you on a 1 to 3 move any hobbit to the hiding spot. If it's already occupied, you lose. 4 to 5 move a black rider 1 space. 6 to 8 move both black riders 1 space. 9 to 12 move either black rider 2 spaces, or 13 to 15 move both black riders 2 spaces. So you've got that, and then you've got 15 numbered cards. There was a slight issue on one game when I was trying to work out whether that was a 6 or a 9, and then I realised they are designed to be seen one way up, so it's not too much of an issue. Now you also, as you progress through the scenarios, get new cards added. When you do certain quests, you actually get special cards, which might be the Wisdom of Elrond, which means you get to draw extra cards. Shadowfax lets you move somebody faster. Great Eagles moves everybody. Arwen's Love, which lets you complete a challenge using one or more One Ring cards without any corruption. Bilbo's Journal, draw 2 cards from the discard pile instead of from the story deck, but you can't choose special cards. Galadriel's Hair, 3 cards from the story deck, then discard 1 from the hand. Elven Cloaks, where you don't draw plot cards. Mirror of Galadriel, look at the top plot card, and you can put it on the bottom of the deck. So you've got those, and what happens is as you complete the scenarios, you actually add those into your normal deck. So let's have a look at the rule book. It's not a big rule book, which is just about right for the age range it's aimed at. So you've got the components, which is quite useful because I was a bit confused between the difference in orc and goblin counters. Sorry, not the orc and goblin, the goblin counters from chapter 5 and from chapter 3. Mainly because I thought the ones from chapter 5 looked more like Moria goblins. It's not a big deal. At least you've got that to check. So it shows you how to set up each scenario. They don't take long to set up. The actual rules start on page 4 and actually finish on page 7. Sorry, would that be 7? No, that wouldn't. That'd be 4, 5. That'd be page 6. Sorry. And then you've got a quick FAQ for just a couple of points for each of the scenarios. So let's have a look at what we've got for the actual game book. It's quite solid card. It does lay out quite flat. I've never had a problem with that. So let's look at the first one. The adventure begins. So it talks you through the setup. So it says find the chapter 1 plot card, put it near the book, shuffle the plot deck and story cards and so on. You then put Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin and Aragorn on their starting spaces. Aragorn's is actually off board at the start of the game. You put the Gandalf counter on the Gandalf space and the 2 Black Riders on the 2 horse spaces. And I love the little mechanics for who gets to play first. The player who took the trip last goes first. I like that touch. That was a cute little touch. And as you go through, there are each one is slightly different. So there's a couple of extra chapter rules. This one talks about how the Black Riders move, and when the hobbits going to the hiding spot. It says how to lose. Well, if you've got more than one hobbit in the hiding spot, or the plot deck runs out, you lose and you restart the scenario. However, your corruption track doesn't reset. This is a campaign, and each one you play, that corruption track builds and builds and builds, and as you're going through it, you'll notice there are something I didn't mention earlier. There are these little symbols, at which point you draw one of the corruption cards, and the corruption cards will say things like remove one of the special event cards from the game permanently, or everybody discards cards. It's a nice little mechanic, and as I've been playing it, I have been desperate not to try to use the ring tokens, because I know it's going to give me more and more problems as it goes on. You've also got the option on this where you can use the One Ring ability here. You can play it there to move a Black Rider 1 space. Now each turn is fairly straightforward. What you can do is you can move either one character 0 to 2 spaces, and you can see the lines on the board where they go, or you can move 1 or 2 characters 1 space. That's the move phase. You then do the storytelling phase, and you can do as many of these as you want in any order. You can discard as many cards as you want, and for each card discarded, you can move 1 extra space. Pretty straightforward. You can complete the challenges that we'll look at in a second. You can play special cards, or you can trade a single card with any other player. Now, when you're playing it solo, to give you that edge there, you put 6 cards to one side and you swap with them on a fairly regular basis. You very quickly find that all the One Ring cards are ending up there, your hands tying up, and now you're struggling. It gives that tension, which I think is quite good. Once you've done that, you draw 2 cards, and you draw the plot card to advance the plot. And then at the end of the turn, if you've still got more than 6 cards, you have to discard down to 6 cards. So I said there were challenges, so we've got the challenges. The first challenge we've got is keep it secret, keep it safe. Frodo and Gandalf must be on the hearth, and Frodo starts there, Gandalf there. So this is going to be quite easy, because that's a total of 3 spaces. You can either do that on the second move, or you can play a card from your hand to get that extra movement. And the reward is each player draws a card from the story deck, and Gandalf then heads off to do other things. He is removed from the board. Once you've done that, you can move on to the next one. Or, if you really wanted to, you could do this first, which doesn't really work, because when you see what the quest is, it's called It Comes in Pints. And all 4 hobbits must be in the Bree spaces. The reward, if once you've done that, is you draw a card from the special deck, so you get your first story element, and Aragorn appears at the Prancing Pony. Now, once you've done that, you've got your final bit, which is we do not stop till nightfall. Plus when you got there, you've got to play the relevant cards. So you need a Palantir 1 in the hearth. In Bree, you need a Palantir and 2 movement. So we do not stop till nightfall. Aragorn, Frodo, Samwise, and at least 1 other hobbit must be at Weathertop. This is a chance to get rid of Peregrine Took. You could leave him for the Nazgul. At least 1 Black Rider must be in 1 of the 2 spaces adjacent. And all other challenges must be complete. And the reward is you've completed the chapter. And that needs a horn and 2 swords. It's quite tight. I've found each of these scenarios, it's right down to the wire. Really close to get it done. So that's the first one. I'll just quickly show you what else we've got. You actually have to forge the fellowship. If you remember in the book and the film, there is a lot of arguing going on. So with this one, you have to sort of try and get rid of the anger for the men, the elves and the dwarves. But it's complicated because you've only got so long as Elrond moves around the board. When he reaches there, it's game over, or if you use all the plot cards. And as an awkward factor is, as you hit each of these spaces, that person moves back there. Frodo can just go straight in. You can't move through an anger token until it's been removed. And Aragorn can remove the men one, Gimli can remove the dwarf one, Legolas can remove the elf one. Aragorn is also going to go down to Boromir to persuade him. And then once you've done that, everybody gets into the centre, including Frodo, and then you've completed it. So the third one is the Mines of Moria. Now this is where you actually start getting sub-tracks as well. The Balrog is gradually moving along, and if it gets to there you lose. Gandalf can move along, and when he moves into the same square as the Balrog, when he moves, the Balrog moves with him. If Balrog moves, Gandalf moves with him. So you've got a bit of a tug of war going off there. You've got to defeat the Cave Troll by getting people either side of the wound tokens. And you've also got to defeat the goblins. There are 4 of them initially in those 4 squares. And in each of the scenarios, there are usually special rules. For example, in this one, Frodo can't move through a goblin. Everybody else can. In the first one, only Aragorn can move through the Black Riders. So they've sort of tied some special abilities in. So you've then got the Fellowship Splits, which is basically the Falls of Raros. scene where you've got Lurtz, if you watch the film, arriving and attacking them. You've got the last march of the Ents, so you actually have the attack on Isengard, and you've got some Ent counters for that one. The Battle of Helm's Deep, which has to be won in sections. You can only take each section one at a time, so that adds a bit of complication. You've also got the day tokens moving on, and Gandalf can't appear until at day 5, or he's at Cliffside. So you get that, and you also need to play cards to move him along. So there's a bit of a tension. Do I use my cards here, or do I use them there? You've then got Shelob's Lair, which is obviously what you'd expect. You've now got a Gollum counter as well. Now, I would have loved a Gollum figure. I think I'm going to end up just putting some of my Lord of the Rings figures in the box as well. And then the final scenario, the final battle, ties in pretty much everything. Oh, we've got Cubit the cat coming to say hello again. We haven't seen him on the video for a while. Yes, I know you want to be a star. Yes, I know I haven't fed you for more than a couple of minutes. Let's just bring the camera up so you can see him a bit better. For those who always wonder what Cubit looks like. So, this one incorporates the Battle of Pelennor Fields, the Battle of the Black Gate, and simultaneously Frodo and Sam with Gollum moving along to the Cracks of Doom. So, it's a nice little book. I do like it. It looks nice. The whole game looks nice. It feels nice. I've played it through. I'm going to play it through again, and what I'll do is probably video at least one of the chapters for you, because I think it's a fascinating game that does capture it, and the fact that it plays as a campaign, and all you need to do in between turns of the campaign is to record which chapter you're on, and what I tend to do is just put the rule book just inside whichever page I'm on, and I usually put the number of ring cards in there that the corruption chart is on. So very simple look game, perfect for ages 10 and above. I am going to try it with my grandkids as well. I'm sure they will enjoy it. They can cope with D&D. I'm sure they can cope with this. So as an unboxing, it's absolutely. I think it's absolutely brilliant. There's little things Ravensburger could have done. My traditional bug with them is that they could have added a few extra figures. I had the same comment on Alien, but it's a brilliant little package. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please click on the like button below so that I know what people like and I know what to make more of. Alternatively, if you've enjoyed it and think you'd like to see more, please click on the subscribe button. That way you get notified by YouTube whenever I bring out a new video, and you never know, there might be something in there that you hadn't considered, because I do cover a variety of things on the channel. And finally, if you have a little bit of cash going, I now have a Patreon account. I'm always looking for patrons, because at the end of the day, let's be perfectly honest, it's a good way for me to get a little bit of money that will use to buy review items or to travel to museums and so on. I don't put a huge amount on that. At the minute, all we've got is one tier charging £1 a month, which just, as I say, helps cover my costs. See you soon.